We're at the stunning Suffolk Water Park. We've got loads to show you in this DVD. We're going to be showing you stick mixes, margin fishing,
and how to make my devastating spod mix.
How to put more carp on the bank.
And answer some of your questions.
and all the range that Bait Tech do, the full works.
And we'll be giving you some great tips along the way.
Welcome to Carp Catchers from Bait Tech. Been fishing now since I was 5 or 6 years old, got into carping, never looked back since. It's a way of getting away from the rat race, just enjoying being outside. I need to be knowledgeable about most products, from terminal tackle to bait. I run a very large tackle shop. We're serving on average about 4,000 customers a week who plough a lot of questions at us. Carp fishing is second to none. It's something that makes me tick.
Absolutely love carp fishing, love spending time outdoors. I like experimenting with different baits. I've got a lot of knowledge that I've picked up. I've got a lot of tips I'd like to share with other people. I'm really methodical when I'm fishing, patient and a bit of a perfectionist. We've got the map of a lake. We're debating on where to fish.
We've got a strong north wind today. It's a bit of a mixed bag with the weather. It's all elements being thrown at us. Because it's so warm, maybe the fish will be pushing down into these two bays.
Yeah, I like the look of this area here. It's quite shallow.
There's a few anglers dotted around here. I'm going to have a chat with them, see if they've seen anything. Who else was in the swims that are now vacant? Swim 14.
Yeah.
It's the right-hand side of the point, and that wind is hacking, isn't it? It's bang on, really carpy weather, overcast, bit of drizzle as well. This is just what we're after. There's a lot of scope in this swim. Plenty to go out, open water.
And it's probably a patrol route for the fish getting into the shallows.
Yeah, I think this is a sort of swim where at some point the fish will definitely cross your path.
Yeah. I reckon the conditions are going to be spot on. I fancied loads of particle, get them grubbing around rather than using, single hook baits. And
yeah. So reading the forums, that's what seems to be doing at the moment, finding a clear area, getting it working. So I'm going to put 2 rods on a clear area if I can find one amongst this weed beds.
Yeah.
And then I'll probably have a little roaming rod, see if I can pick a fish off. That looks a real nice swim as well. Might have a look at that one. It's plenty to go at. And speaking to the other anglers, there was no one in here for the last 2 days. So I know there's no bait gone in, so I've pretty much got the run of the mill of the place. The best thing about it is no one in the next 2 or 3. I've got plenty of water as well. Hopefully I can bag one of the chunks that swims around in here. As far as I know, there's about 29 different 30s at the moment, and then the big one, the jewel in the crown, is the 4.3, the big 40.
Yeah.
So hopefully I can get that troughing on my patch, mate.
Lovely. Let's do it. Let's go.
Nice one.
I've left Dean on the main lake of the Suffolk Water Park. I've decided to fish Jacob's Creek Lake. I've come on swim number 2. The conditions are perfect. The fish are generally smaller in this lake, although there's still a few 20s and the odd 30 to have a go at. I'm going to be using Big Carp Method Mix, sweet coconut. Get the ground bait in a decent bucket. I'm going to use a whole bag for this session. It's got loads of little bits and pieces, hemp, maize, crushed tigers, the irresistible. Bucket of water, a little bit at a time, not too much. Give it a good whiz, and then check the consistency. You want it to bind together, but when you break it down, you want it to fall apart again. What you'll need to do is give that a good 10 minutes to let it soak up. All the seeds are going to take up loads of water, and then you'll have to get back to it to get that correct consistency like that. Sweet coconut liquids. One of the potent carp attractors from Bait Tech, one of my favourite products on the market at the moment. I like to use a little drizzle of it in my ground bait and it gives me a really good edge. Give it a good stir. Sweet coconut liquid brings out all the attractors in a mix. It gives it a really nice flavour and a really nice smell, and the carp find it irresistible. Perfect. Marine halibut pellets, 4mm, just sprinkle a few of these, not too many because I don't want to overfeed the fish. I just want to give them something to grub around. Give them a good stir. They're really oily, really attractive, and they've got a really good, decent breakdown time. Now, the reason why I don't want to use too many is because once you get a ball together, you don't want it to break down too quick, especially when casting out in a spawn. You might find that it might break up on impact, and the whole idea is to get this ball together, and I want it to get to the bottom of the bed and then it breaks down. Now that I've got my ground bait mixed, method feeders. This is the one I've opted for, an open type. Hook link that I like to use is a braid over a mono, purely because of how supple it is, and I like to bury the hook inside the actual feeder itself. Make sure that you haven't got any knots above the line, therefore the feeder can release off in case a fish gets tethered and the line gets cut off. Brown hook link to blend in with my mix once that's in the feeder itself, so the fish don't get suspicious. Hook baits I'm going to be using is the orange 10mm shellfish boilie alongside a sweet coconut 10mm pop-up. The hook that I'm using is a size number 10 barbless with a little bit shrink tube and a little bit of silicone sleeve on the bend of the hook. I find that that really turns the hook once a fish picks it up. Baiting needle through the two and onto the hair rig. And just a little bait stop on the ends. Push it back. So what I've got in this is a critically balanced hook bait because we've got a bottom bait and a pop-up. But what I've discovered is by placing a little shot on the hair, I found that I'm getting really aggressive hook holds purely because of the weight helping to drop that hook on the bottom of a fish's mouth and getting that really important turn. Grab a little bit of mix into your palm of your hand, drop the feeder in, give it a squeeze, get some more, wrap it round and get it as tight as you can and keep squeezing it. Once you've got a nice tight ball, take your hook, place it inside, a little bit more. A lot of people like to bury the hook baits in the ball. I like them sticking out. Once that hits the bottom, that's going to be out and revealed straight away, and that's ready to cast out. I'm using a 12-foot, 3.5 pound test curve rod. I haven't got a shock leader on. I'm only fishing about 40 to 50 yards out. If I was fishing any further, I would definitely put one on. It's quite a bit of weight there, and the last thing you want to do is crack off and leave this on the lake bottom. Perfect. Always a good idea to feed off a little bit of line. You don't want it too tight. You don't want the line like a bowstring. The last thing you want to do is spook fish that are feeding around in the area. Mould the balls, and whatever you're using on the hook bait as boilies, get them into the ball and wrap them round. And once that breaks down, that'll just give them a little bit to feed on. The balls need to be the same sort of shape as a feeder, perfect for a day's session. Drop that in, shut it, easy as pie. And what happens is, as soon as that hits the water, opens up, instantly comes out. Using spoms or spods, 4 pound test curve spod rods, 30 pound braids, and I've got a shock leader on this again because of the weight on the end. The beauty about these spoms is that on the retrieve it doesn't pick up any water, so you can get it back really quick and you're ready to go.
It's been battering down with rain all morning. Finally it's stopped and now we can get going. It's one of the biggest mistakes we see on lakes, especially day ticket waters, where the anglers turn up, they get the gear, they throw the rods out and they think that's it, they'll catch a fish from it. It's really important that you know what's going on at the bottom of the lake. This is the marker setup, so it's pretty simple. It's all done with a braid main line. With braid, there's no stretch in the line at all, so whatever I'm feeling when I'm pulling the lead back across the bottom, it's giving me direct contact with that lead system, let me know exactly what I'm on. So if it's gravel, you'll get a tap-in sensation. If it's silt, you'll get like a really slow slug pulling. You'll be pulling it through like really stiff. Then there's the weed beds. When you throw it in the weed bed, it will clog up. It'll be very hard to pull the rod through. We've got a lead system boom here, which keeps it off the bottom, away from like the bottom debris like the silkweed, and then you've got a very buoyant float. This is the key, to have the most buoyant float you can get your hands on. I prefer this one. It seems to do the job. It'll plumb up through the weed very quickly. We've got roughly about 80 yards to the far bank, so I'm going to try and get it as close as I can there. So I'm looking for like a gravel bar, maybe a silt gully. So I want to get tight to a weed bed if I can. Again, that's where carp spend most of their time. So that's landed roughly about 2 foot from the other bank, which then gives me the complete width of the swim to bring it all back in to find out exactly what's out there. A lot of people hold the rod wrong. They'll put their hands on the reel like that, and when they're actually pulling it, it cancels out some of the movement in the lead on the bottom. By holding the rod with one hand here, and then pulling across like that, you'll get much more sensitivity down the blank. So as I pull the lead back now, straight away I'm on gravel there. Let's just give it another foot or so on that gravel, tap, tap, tap. That's great. I know now I'm about a foot away from that weed bed, which is perfect. We know the gravel bar runs right the way down the lake, so we know that's going to be a patrol loop for the carp, which is the perfect way to intercept them with a few baits, a few spod mixers. Let's wind the float down to the lead, and now we're going to peel off the line a foot at a time to find the depth of fishing on. 11, 12, just about see the float now. It's come up at 12 foot. Looking at that now, we know there's about 12 foot of water, including the actual float and the stem. You're looking at 13 foot. It's unlucky for some, but not for us. You can imagine this is the weed bed that we found. When we first cast out, we plumbed straight into it. So this is what's happened. Cast out, it's gone straight into the weed bed, and I felt that on the actual rod tip. Where I'm standing now is the gravel patch that we found. When we pulled out, we felt that tap, tap, tap. This is exactly what happened. As we pulled the rod out, it's come straight onto the gravel. I've then given myself another foot of leeway. Now, if you can imagine that as a carp, it will patrol all the weed beds. It will find this, it will hug the weed bed as it's going up and down the lake. By giving ourselves a foot, what we want to do now is give ourselves like a bedded area of bait. So we want to bait up probably 4 foot this side, 4 foot that side, get the trap set, and hopefully bag ourselves one. Everyone's got their own version of the spod mix. Some people just throw whatever they want in there and that'll do. For me, it needs to be a little bit different. The actual guys at Bait Tech develop some of the best and fresher products available, and this is why I use them. First off, we always start with a hemp mix. The difference with this hemp is the actual size of the grains. It's absolutely massive. You can tell it's cooked to perfection. Every single one is split. For me, it's the biggest on the market. I'm yet to find a bigger grain. Bait Tech only use a grade A first class hemp. We're only putting the spod mix out just to start, so we want to tease it in gently. I don't want to go and put 10 kilos straight in. Half the pack to start with. Now the next one up is this stuff. This is the party mix, which really is special. There's 10 different food types in here, which for me gets the carp grubbing around, doesn't keep them preoccupied on one bit. There's 10 to choose from. So you've got mixes of pulses and seeds in there, and they're all fused in aniseed, which is a fantastic carp attractor. We're going to use half of it again. It smells absolutely fantastic. There's loads there to keep them snapping around forever. What carp could resist that? It's absolutely bang on again. So in that goes. So now you've got the absolute perfect seed mix. All the ingredients are actually cooked in these bags, so it locks in the freshness, the goodness, all those attractors. So when you get to your tackle shop, they are the freshest you'll get your hands on. Give that a good swirl again. A little bit of sweet corn. I'm actually using a Scopex boilie, so I'm actually marrying it up with the Scopex sweet corn. Don't want many, I just want a handful. It's just to give that bit of visual yellow in the mix. There we go, in that goes. They also do maize. Now again, I don't want a lot of maize. It's literally just a handful. They are very big seeds. It gives me an extra hook bait material. In goes the maize. Give that a good stir around. And that's it for me, that's your seeds done. Next up is the pellet. Now, what we seem to do from Bait Tech, we've got these fantastic high attract carp pellets mix. There's whole different sorts of sizes in the range, different colours, which gives you a load of different breakdown times, which is perfect. But the problem is, what people do, they put it straight into the actual mix now. And because there's so much water in there, the pellet just turns to mush straight away. So a few hours ago, what we've done, we took some of the Bait Tech carp mix pellet and we fused it in the Excite liquid. What this does, it gives it a good coating and prolongs the life of the pellet. There is 3 versions in the range. That's the original, the straight fish oil one, a chili version. There's also a tuna. If I can show you the pellet now, look at that. It's a lot darker, it smells absolutely gorgeous. Obviously you've got smaller pellets, big pellets, so they will have different breakdown times. So that will go in, and at least then the pellets will be in the swim for a few hours before it breaks down into mush, rather than casting it straight out as mush. In go the rest of the pellets. Got the pellets, the seeds, the sweet corn, the maize. For me, that's ready to go. That's a spod mix, but if you spod that out, it will just fall out the back of the spod during flight. So what we tend to do now, I use a bung mix, which is going to plug the back of the spod, but I also want to make it into a stick mix as well, which is why we're making it separate. First ingredients up, the Special G. It's been around for a few years now, and it's been doing fantastic on the match scene. I run a very busy tackle shop, and speaking to the match lads, it's been ripping the match scene apart. You think about it, the match guys have got just 5 hours to catch as many fish as they can, so they want that quick bite, the quick feed in time. The response needs to be bang straight away, and this is the stuff that's going to do it. It's the highest grade A fish meals we can get our hands on. It's fantastic. It also contains a product called GPS 90, which is a super soluble. What it does, it creates that fast feeding time. So these are my two. What I tend to do, the gold and the green are fused together in the Excite liquid. Start off with the green first, pour a bit of that in, use about 1/3 of a bag, and with the gold as well, in that goes. Give that a good mix up so the two is bang on a 50-50 combo. Look at that. So that's a very fine mix now. Because it's a ground bait, it's like a dust almost. So we need to pack it out a little bit more. So next up, the salmon fry crumb. a fantastic fish attractor. It's full of amino acids, very high quality fish oils. This is the one that's going to get them zooming in straight on the patch. So we just want a quarter of that. Again, give it a good mix up so there's an even spread throughout the whole mix. There you go. You can see the redness in it now, the change. That's added with the salmon fry crumb. The coarseness is there now. It's not as dusty. It's starting to pack out and look like a stick mix, which is perfect for the plugging of the back of the spod and for those stick mixes. Next up in the mix, the special green feed pellets. There's different sizes in the range. I prefer the 2 and 3 mils because it's going into a stick mix. We wanted to keep them small. Now, there's a unique recipe to this. It's only available to Bait Tech. These are that special. Fantastic pulling power to bring those carp into your swim. There's just one little thing left now, and that's the Excite oil again. This will make it PVA friendly. It'll pack up the back of the spod and also pack down the stick mixes we're going to be doing with it. This is the bit where it will go clumpy, so you need to get a good mix on it. Put the lid on, just give it a good shake. Get that oil coated in every part of the actual mix. And there she is. Perfect for bunging the back of the spod, perfect for stick mixes. It's ready to go. This is braid and it cuts like a knife, especially through flesh. It's happened to me a few times. This is at the finger stall. This is made out of a tough leather, means you can really get some beef into the rod, really whack it out there if you need to. The spod itself, it's got a buoyant end. Once you've filled your spod up, as soon as it hits the water, it'll then tip, it's like so. All the bait will fall out onto the patch, which is the marker rod out there. We get about half a dozen spods on the patch to get it going. So we'll start with the first mix that we did, which is all the pellets, the hemp, the maize, all those seeds. I'm going to fill that up to about there. I'm just going to plug the rest of the spod with about ½ an inch with the stick mix. Bang it up, push it down, and there we go. That's the back of the spod. That now keeps all those bits and pieces packed down the bottom, and it'll fly true through the air. Okay, when it's hit the clip, guys, it's very important now. Just give the spod a few taps on the rod. You'll see the spod in the water now, just keeping it taps. What you're doing then, you're just making sure all the particles, the bits and pieces, are rattling out the spod and they're falling on the mix. Put the other 2 bang on the marker, then the other 2 to the left of it, and what I've got then is probably a 4 to 5 foot line on that gravel bar. We'll stick our hook bait right smack in the middle of it. I'm just going to finish up now with a few boilies, literally about ½ a kilo with a trusted old throwing stick. We're going to scatter them either side of the marker float, probably 3 foot that side, 3 foot that side, to give us a 6 foot area to work with. 4 or 5 boilies at a time, and these are going to go 80 yards. I want all the bait the other side of the marker float. I don't want any bait landing this side of it. So I'll come into contact with the actual fishing lines, and then so will the carp. If you can imagine, the float's on the top of the water. I want to reel it down so it hits the actual lead on the bottom, and that will give me my true distance from this bank to our baited patch. Just reel the rod down until it hits that lead. Very slowly, bang, there it is. So now the float has come down from the top layer, come down through the columns, and it's hit the lead. Now this is the most important part. We're trying to get the right angle on the rod as how you would actually finish a cast. So forget this is an actual marker rod. This is how I would be finishing my business rod. So the actual rod with the rig on it, this is how I want to finish the cast. So just get into a comfortable position which is right for you. It doesn't have to be the same angle as I'm at, it's whatever's right for you. If I'm happy with that, find the clip on the reel, I'm taking the actual line and I'm putting it in the clip. That now is marked up exactly where that marker float was. And that's it, it's ready to come in now. That's it, job done. We'll get this measured out now. 2 poles, and they're both measured out a rod length apart. I'm going to put the lead end this side, and we're going to walk the lines out via them until it hits the clip. So opening the spool, that gives me 1 rod length. 2, 3, so that's 17 rod lengths and it's hit the clip. So what we need to do now is grab one of the fishing rods, do the same there. We're going for 2 sorts of hook baits, one either side of where the marker was. We've got one on a maize stack and the other on boilie. The first one out is going to be the maize stack rig. Okay, feeling it down on a tight line, 45-degree angle, bang, she's hit bottom. We're on exactly the same spot. We'll take the line out of the clip, we'll get the other rod out there. On the baited area we messed about with, that rattled off at early hours of the morning. Good fight, lovely looking fish. 20-pound old warrior, hopefully there'll be a few more chunks bigger than this one. Awesome.
fishing for about 25 years now. Started off match fishing, course fishing, then hooked and lost my first carp, and from that point on, that's all I wanted to fish for. I'm really passionate about carp fishing. Rigs is my main thing. I really like the technical side of it, trying to outwit the carp and try and come up with something that the carp just can't get away with. Most anglers these days will use some form of PVA in their fishing, be it a solid bag, mesh bag, or even a stringer. But the most popular of these has to be the stick. A small stick of ground bait that's threaded down the hook link that covers the hook. Serves two purposes. One, it adds attraction to your hook bait, and two, though it's covering your hook, it stops it getting snagged or tangled on the cast or falling down through the water column. For my stick mixes, I prefer to use Mojo ground bait, packed full of real fish and soluble fish proteins. It's extremely pungent and the carp love it. Add a selection of small pellets. My favourite ones are the Special G. These contain GPS 90, which is a highly soluble fish meal, and the carp absolutely love it. I like to keep them small. These are 2 mil. This means when you're threading the hook link back through the stick, there's no chance of the hook point getting impaled on one of the pellets, which can happen if you use larger sizes. To the ground bait, you need to add some form of liquid to dampen up the mixture. I prefer to use Excite omega-3 fish oil. It's extremely fishy, it's a good attractor for carp, and though it's oil-based, it won't melt the PVA. Start off by pouring a small amount of Mojo ground bait into the dish. Follow this by adding in some of the small pellets, and finally you'll need to add your liquid. You can give a liberal amount of this, and if you overdo it, you can always add a bit more ground bait at the end till you get the right consistency. Once everything's in there, you need to give it a good mix up. If you find it's too damp, add a bit more ground bait. If it's too dry, add a bit more oil. Once you've got the desired consistency, leave it for about 10 to 15 minutes to let all the ground bait and pellets absorb all the oil. Once the mix is ready, it's time to make the PVA stick. For this, I'm using the standard boilie size PVA, and it's a simple case of scooping the ground bait into the tube and then compressing it down. Once it's compressed, push it out the bottom of the tube and then tie a knot in it. I tend to tie up a few of these in one go. If you get any action, be it in the day or in the night, you've got a few ready to go as and when you need them. It's a simple case of cutting the stick off and then you have a stick that's ready to go. I'm using a very simple rig, standard blowback rig. I've got 2 10mm shellfish boilies. Simply put a stringer needle through the centre of the stick. Once the needle's out the bottom of the stick, clip on to the end of the hook link and slide it down the hook link and over the hook. Once it's at the bottom, pull it tight so the hook point goes into the stick, and that's now won't tangle on the cast or as it's travelling down through the water. Clip this onto your rig and it's ready to cast out. This proves the effectiveness of using stick mixes. Mirror of about 9–10 pound, caught 20 minutes after casting out using a stick. Not the biggest fish in the world, but when they look as pretty as this, it doesn't matter. One feature which swims all have in common is a margin, be it the near margin, the far margin, or an island margin. This margin here looks absolutely perfect for a bite. You've got a small reedy bay at the end of the lake. The wind's been pushing in here all day. I've seen activity of carp, bubbling, crashing on the surface. It's going to be a perfect patrol route for them. Because it's so close in, you can get away with using small particles such as party mix, hemp, tigers. I'm going to start off by making a mix which is going to be very similar to a spod mix. The main part of it is a Super C party mix. A whole bag of that in. The good thing about this product is though it's cooked in the bag, it retains all its flavours and attractors. Next, you need to add a tin of hemp. Again, this is cooked in the tin. As a hook bait, I'm going to be using tiger nuts. Not too many because it's very easy to overfeed tiger nuts. I'm going to add some pellets. It's just a mix of all different size pellets, which really get the carp rooting around. Give that a mix up. Because this mix is quite wet, I want it to be a bit more stodgy so it gets down to the bottom quicker. There's a lot of smaller fish, so I need it to get to the lake bed before they have a chance to attack it. So to do this, I'm going to add some ground bait. Give it another good mix, and you'll find it will really start to thicken up. As I'm fishing so close in, I can actually ball up the mix and throw it in by hand. If it was any further out, I could use a bait scoop or a spod. When I arrived in the swim, I had a quick lead around and that margin's relatively clear. With that in mind, I've opted for a bottom bait rig. I'm using 2 growlers mounted on a hair. I've got the silicone pushed all the way around the bend of the hook. This creates a really aggressive hooking motion. I've got a small section of putty along the hook link going up to a lead clip. This is a quick eject lead clip system, meaning if the lead's to get tethered in anything, it'll simply pull off. I've got a leader of heavy fluorocarbon, about 5 foot in length, and with the putty dotted along the length of it. This will help keep everything pinned down, which is essential for margin fishing. Before casting out, I'm going to attach a small mesh bag of special G pellets. This will add just a bit more traction around the hook bait. And it's a simple case of a gentle underarm flick to the spot. Feel the lead down, feel it hit the bottom, nice and clear, and then sink the line. Because I'm fishing so close in, I want the lines to be really slack, because any fish coming along this margin, if it comes into contact with tight lines, it's going to spook it. So it's essential that everything's flat, laying along the bottom, out of harm's way. Because I want the line to be nice and slack and hugging the bottom of the lake, I'm going to let it completely sink down and I'll attach a bob in at a later stage. It's only been out there about 20 minutes. Picked up a lot of weed on the way in, so it felt a lot heavier. It's a good idea that when you catch a fish, is to get all of this stuff done first. So wet the unhooking mat, wet the weigh sling, get the scale zeroed, so when you get the fish out on the bank, he's out in it for as little time as possible. So make sure his fins are all flush to his body. 18 pounds.
I've been carp fishing since I was 6. My dad first got me into it. It doesn't matter how big the carp is, it's you against nature. Finding the fish, feeding the fish, you end up having a photo with the fish. A lot of people that don't fish don't understand you can't really beat it. The devastating spod mix that I've been using at the moment, it only comprises of 4 different bait tech products, so you don't have to worry about going out to the tackle shops and spending loads of money. Basically, I give it a big pouch of the bait tech party mix. We add the Entice meaty ground bait into that, half of the Big Carp Method Mix sweet coconut flavour, and then put a whole bottle of the sweet coconut flavour liquid. Give it a good mix up. All these products combined creates this awesome sloppy spod mix, and that clouds up beautiful. When Pete, the director, was filming me doing a bit of spod and he brought this helicopter out in front of me, it was just unbelievable. I think this is my new bait boat sitting right here.
We've got 8 brushless motors, and Dean will show you how it's going to fly out over the lake to get shots that have never been got before in the fishing industry, as far as we know.
So it's the first for bait tech then?
It's the first for bait tech.
Get in. Well, Dean, it's all over to you, mate. I hope you don't crash it.
Lovely, cheers.
To watch the actual water cloud up with the spod mix that I was using from a bird's eye view of it, and to see the piece of kit working, it was a bit nerve-wracking that I weren't going to hit it out of the sky, but absolutely great. It was amazing. A lovely, lovely 19-pound mirror, full of muscle, absolute minter. Epic battle. Tried to get me into the reeds, lily pads, you name it. Finally hit the net. Cracking looking fish, absolutely over the moon.
I've fished all my life pretty much. My dad's fished for most of his life. He's been taking me from the age of 2. I got really seriously into the carp fishing and I just love it. My girlfriend hates me for it, but because I'm just fishing mad all the time. It's there, it's burning inside me all the time. Even when other people are catching, I'm just as buzzed up for them, and it's never really stopped. I'm here to show you my truly awesome carp catching stick mix. The main body of the mix, which is the Entice Meaty. It has liver powder in it, loads of carpy aminos. When you open the bag, you know straight away that it's gonna catch you a carp. So first off, I'm gonna use tuna with all the oil. Next, the lovely Entice Meaty. Little bits at a time. You don't wanna put too much in because you can't take out. Get all them tuna flakes, all the big lumps, mash them through your fingers like so. It's not too dry, but yet it's not too damp. I'm going to be adding some oils anyway, so I'll probably need to come back to the Entice Meaty. I like to use the super chili hemp. This stuff's got no preservatives in. It's cooked in the bag, it's sealed, and it's fresh. The size of the hemp and the way it's split, you can tell that this is totally different particles to any other company out there. This is going to be a massive thing for all us carp anglers. I'll put that in there, just a couple of little handfuls with a few juices straight in there, and get that mixed up as well. Next, the CSL tuna. Obviously where you've got the tuna in there, it just boosts it up a little bit. It's a liquid food and the stuff is so pungent. You're gonna love this stuff. I put 3 or 4 tablespoons in there. Mix up the tuna CSL food. In goes the liquid chili. Same sort of amount, a little bit more. Oh, loveliness mixed up, all them fibrous bits. The smell here at the moment, it is so carpy, real meatiness. I like to add a little bit of salmon fry crab. You dust over the top. Then some marine halibut pellets, just to give it that a little bit more for the fish to pick up. So I put a handful in there. Give that all a good mash up. The mix is quite dry as you pick up, it feels quite dry, and as you bind it, it stays together, but yet you touch it and it still breaks up quite easily. The last thing that I put in, the Excite chili oil, just really slicks up the mix. Put that in, a quarter of the bottle, as you can see there. Now the mix is done. That is looking really great. It just absolutely screams carp. The actual stick itself, this is the 25mm stick. I like to pull the end down and then you can see how much you're going to be putting in, and then just stab it to the side of the bucket. You can see that it's pushing up through the actual stem of it itself. If that sort of size that it is there is probably going to end up being that size, so I'll put a tiny bit more in. Hold it on the end of your hand, squeeze down with the plunger. And then hold it tight and then just push it through. And you can see all them oils working in to the PVA itself. And just pull that hook up in there and it's ready to be cast down, and it will catch you some carp. She's only £17, but what a beauty all the same. I moved into Peg 13 last night, late at night, after seeing around 30, 40 shows right out about 110 yards out. There is a gravel bar out there, Plateau, which one of the bailiffs told me about, which is vital when you come to these day ticket waters, is to find out as much info about the swim as you possibly can to help you catch beauties like this one. It's our duty as carp anglers to keep these fish in pristine condition, so it is vital that you have these bits of kit with you. Body and care kit and a mouth kit with a few cotton buds. As you look inside there, you'll see that this fish has rarely been caught because it still has its top curtain there. Now, unfortunately, I hooked the fish in that top curtain, so he has split a little bit. We'll treat that nicely inside the fish's mouth. He's got a tiny little sore on the bottom of his mouth. Just rub it in, and then that's that done. Never carry the fish off the carp mat over any sort of ground whatsoever. Always try and keep it nearer the water as possible. And hopefully next time his mother will be on the hook. We're over in Craig's swim and he's going to show us about solid PVA bag fishing.
just a spot that I'm fishing a couple of overhanging trees.
Yeah.
Just with the lead, I was just worried that everything was going to get tangled up. The solid bag method was a good reason to go for it, because everything's contained in that bag, the lead, the rig, nice nice good size of bait as well.
Yeah.
And it's just awesome presentation. As soon as it hits the clip, PVA bag's touching the trees.
Yeah.
And then I'm just feeling that drop. You can still feel a drop with a PVA bag.
Yeah.
Great thing about Bait Tech is they just do everything so simple and easy, you know, it's just great. They've brought out a new bucket specifically for this. It's got 3s, 4s and 6mm pellets.
The halibut pellets.
The halibuts, really, really oily. I've also added a ground bait, and this is one of the best ones I think I've come across.
Wicked
is
bait,
the Entice Meaty Mix.
Yeah.
Absolutely stinks.
I know why you stuck that in there,
Yeah,
mate. That is a
great.
really good bait.
I've also added the green lip mussel. Again, have a whiff of that.
Bit naughty,
mate.
that one, mate. Yeah, you can keep
it's
that one away.
Haven't had any other liquid additive or anything, just the whole bottle of that the night before. Obviously being water soluble and I'm using PVA, I don't want it to melt. But not only that, is that soaks up all into the ground bait, the pellets. I mean, you can see that they've took it on.
A little bit spongy, aren't they?
A little bit spongy,
Hard in the middle as well.
And obviously the water temperatures at this time of year are great, because that just sets them off as well for a real quick, fast break
nice
time.
Nice oily patch.
Yeah, and it's just
them the home in on
awesome
that
attractor, yeah.
Excellent.
Let's go on to the rig I've been using for the PVA bags. Nothing complex, quite easy. Got a metre long lead core.
Yep.
I've got 4-inch hook link. What I've gone to is an inline drop-off system.
Yep.
So as soon as the fish pulls that
Lead's
tension,
gone.
lead's gone. Having such a short hook link as well, I like to dump that lead.
Yeah.
Because you think, with the fish is plodding about, comes up, bang, it's in direct contact with the lead.
So it hooks in.
It's hooked, the lead's dropped, I'm in contact with the fish, but then I haven't got this lead flapping about around the fish's face.
Damaging the fish.
Damaging the fish, whatever, it's just
Snagging
bang,
you up.
done. Construct the bag together, 4-inch rig will fit nicely in there.
Yeah.
Get a little handful first, just to line the bottom.
And why do you stick just that little bit in there first?
What I like to do is do it in like a layered base.
Right.
You know, so I put it down a little bit,
Yeah.
so then the rig then can sit
Sits in there
nicely, sits nice on there, and everything can lay like that. Yeah. I'm
Really like that.
looping it over there, keeps the lead core in place.
Yeah, like that a lot.
You can just add a little bit more each time. And while I'm doing it, just pad it down to keep it tight.
Yep. And almost adjusting that rig there so that that's always staying straight inside the PVA as well.
Exactly, yeah. And then I just drop off a little bit more, fill a little bit more up. The lead, the rig, everything's in there now.
Yep.
I always go up to the top of the
Right,
line
so you
of
don't
the
go
tail
right.
rubber.
You don't go right to the top.
No, because I'll show you what happens. All I then do is start, push it down, twist it, keeping that bag tight. And when that's in water, because of the tension of it, it just explodes.
Yeah.
And then obviously the little pellets, the ground bait, it just causes that cloud.
It's straight down on the bottom.
Bang. Just test it in the margin. I know it's a bit of a waste of a bag, but they do have a ranges of ground bait. It's brilliant. You know, try it in the margin, you can see it explode, see what suits you best. If I'm fishing over 8 foot of water, you know, depth-wise, then I will always probably double bag the PVA bag so it can get to the bottom without
exploding halfway down.
going halfway down, yeah. Give it a little lick. Not the nicest thing.
Not like an Oreo.
No, not like an Oreo. I'll have some of them with a cup of tea, so. And out she comes. Just wet the PVA down around there, tuck in the edges. Again, for the cast aerodynamic, but also it just, I mean look, I've pulled that edge down and it's made it tighter already.
More tighter than it already was. And then that's it, that's ready to go.
Mate. That's ready
I have
to
seen
go.
a few people now and then they tend to pierce the bag.
Yeah,
do you ever do that?
I do, mate,
pierce
it's a good point, yeah. Just lets the air out of it as well and just helps it sink better all the way around.
Lovely, mate,
This is
lovely.
done. Like Blue Peter, here's one I made earlier. I'll lay this in the bucket here.
So this is what would happen on the bottom of the lake, and obviously it'd be a little bit more deeper than what it is here, so it'll probably take a little bit more time, but there it goes.
She's gone, look, it's exploded. There's a little white fluoro pop up from Bait Tech sitting there, look.
Look at all that carpy goodness down there.
And everything's sitting right. I've got my lead there, the pop up there.
So you can't see the rig at all, it's all covered by all of Craig's little bits of munger in there.
And if I was a carp coming in,
look at that. He's even going to get lost in his own muck there, isn't he? He is. He's going to get lost in his own muck and he ain't going to know what's hitting. It screams carp.
I've been carp fishing now for about 12 years. I've done lots of styles of fishing
Now I've sort of progressed through the years into carp and I love it because you never stop learning. There's so many different styles and methods. The adrenaline buzz you get when you hook a big fish is fantastic. When you finally get that fish and it seems all worth it then. My PVA bag mix consists of 4 different ingredients. Special G pellets, and the reason I use these is because they're very, very high in oil and high protein content, so it's going to release all those oils and scents into the water column and draw the fish straight onto the bait. A 3 milli size and a 2 millimeter. The reason I use the 2 is because they pack into the bag nice and tight, so there's less air in the bag, so you can cast it further. The second ingredient is the salmon fry crumb, pre-digested fish meal, because this is going to also fill up all those small gaps in the bag to make it really tight and compact. The third ingredient, tuna oil. It's going to release and it's going to come up, it's going to drift up to the surface and it's going to pull carp in from all different angles at all different levels in the water and hopefully draw them down to that hook bait. Another wonderful ingredient is corn steep liquor. It's very, very high in sweeteners, sugars, betaine, lots of natural ingredients in there. It's got a multitude of uses. It's not just for PVA bag fishing, you can add it to pellets, boil it, anything you want. In there, we've got a small orange 10 milli pop-up, and that's attached down to a nibble down 15 mil boilie. Tie up a few rigs. As soon as you've caught that first fish, you don't have to mess about, you've got a couple already ready to go. 15 millimeter pineapple squid pop-up boilie. And just to show you how this sits in the water once it's down there and that bag has exploded, it will just hover, just touching the bottom. So if there's any weed in the swim, it isn't going to get clogged down in it. It's a nice bright colour, which means it's going to draw the fish in. Perfect. When I'm fishing the PVA bag method, one of the key things is obviously the hook bait. What I've decided to fish today are these super buoyant fluoro pop-ups. There's 2 different flavours. You've got your sweet coconut and pineapple squid, both available in 2 different sizes. Now you can fish these as a single pop-up bait. You've also got the smaller 8 and 10 millis pop-ups, again in the same flavours. They're real fish attractors those, especially in dark, deep, murky water. They're going to really attract those fish and they're going to come homing in on those bright little colours. Get trouble with bream with these small little ones. So what I tend to do is I'll fish a big bait, a 15 or an 18 mil boilie, and on top of that, sit one of these little fellows. So you've got a little snowman type rig. You spoil for choice on different colour combinations. The fish are never going to suss one bait out because you've got so many different options to choose from. There's the bait. But it's putting a real good scrap up for its size. You tend to find that with these smaller fish, they fight harder than the bigger ones and sometimes can take twice as long to get in. Jeez. And he's ours. Once I've caught a fish like this, I know he's put a little bit of a scrap up. I usually give them a couple of minutes just to recover. Especially when it's warm like this, there's less oxygen in the water. There's the rig we were showing you earlier. The little high-vis pop-ups have done the biz for us. Let's refill that, get another bag out there and see if we can catch its big brother, eh?
It's another little bar of gold from the Suffolk Water Park. I caught this one just off of the surface using them ever faithful fluoro pop-ups from Bait Tech. The sweet coconut ones. Absolutely gorgeous they are in here. Not a monster, but still a beauty all the same.
Few fish shown tight into these reeds. I've seen them knocking the reeds, but they seem reluctant to come away from them. Now I'm going to fish some of the Bait Tech chili hemp. I've mixed in some Special G pellets, some of the mixed halibuts and supermarines, and I'm going to place that really tight and see if it'll sneak us a fish out. Also, to add a bit more attraction, I put some chili oil in here, which is going to leak off and hopefully draw them fish straight to the bait. The hook bait is a 16 mil supermarine with a 10 milli pop-up, just so it stands out a little bit. You notice the rig, I fished a drop-off lead, a very short weed safety clip here, 3-ounce lead, so it's very heavy. So as soon as they pick that bait up, they're going to shake and they're going to drop that lead straight off. Just for a bit of protection and a bit of abrasion resistance, I've got some diffusion camo tubing, which is the 0.75, and on that I've just marked it a little bit with a little bit of marker pen just to blend it in even more. And as you can see, I've put some tungsten putty on there just to ensure it all lies on the bottom so it doesn't spook any fish. On the hook length, again, 15 pound, 2 little sinkers on there, again Klingon tungsten putty just to pin it down, size 8 twister hook, and there's a little snowman style bait. I'm going to wade out as far as I can. It's a soft bottom here, so I've got to be a bit careful. I'm going to drop that rig right into those reeds. Let's get some feed bait right round it. Started to drop off quite deeply those, and where I've placed the rig, it's probably about 8-9 foot deep. I put plenty of bait in there. It's a real fish holding spot, that tight against those Norfolk reeds. I've had a right result not long after we caught that first one on the PVA. Imagine where it went. So we've got a beautiful fully scaled mirror here. Just check that all these pec fins are flat down so we're not going to damage anything. And roll the net. That sun's beaming down. Plenty of water on the fish. Keep him cool. Some parasites still on the fish there. The beauty of these cradles is the fish is off the floor, so even if it starts to bounce about, it isn't going to damage itself in any way. Just have a look and see if there's any little marks or scale lift. I'm just going to put some of this Medicarp care. Once it's actually in the water, it acts like a plaster. We put a film over it, which is antiseptic, give it a better chance to heal. So just put a liberal amount on. Can you see how it's starting to react with the water? It's already forming a barrier. Okay, flip the fish over again, making sure the pec fins are nice and flat to the body. Again, a little slight mark here, an old wound. Just rub it in slightly there. Just hold him in, give him a second to recover. You'll know when he's ready because he'll give a good strong kick. And don't let go of him until he is ready. Doesn't matter how big they are, you've got to look after all of these carp. Just give him a little bit of time.
I've seen about 4 or 5 fish just cruising on top with the heads out. I just can't not. I'm going to reel in the bottom rods in a sec. All I'm basically doing is just setting up my hook link at the moment.
Yep.
It's just 8-pound line, little size 10 mixer hook.
Yep.
Just tipped off with one of the Bait Tech pop-ups.
Nice.
I like to keep everything nice and small when I'm surface fishing. I'm using a 2 1/4 dedicated floater fishing rod.
Yeah.
Real nice and whippy.
Yeah.
Excellent for casting, just playing fish, you just can't beat it.
And you're keeping the bubble float on this as well.
I've had a lot of success on these bubble floats. Depending on how far I'm fishing out, it's depending on how much, obviously, water I'll fill the bubble float up with. It gives the bubble float a little bit of extra weight.
Yeah.
A little bit better for casting with that little bit added weight in there. When that fish actually does take the hook bait, it acts as like a bolt rig.
So you've got that nice and tight to the hook there, I see, as well.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I like to use the pop-up. It's a nice small pop-up. Sometimes I'll trim it down to the shape of the biscuit, but I have, again, on them little size, I think it's a 10 or a 12 mil pop-up. They just have it, mate, straight away.
Yeah. Got the shaky hands.
Shaky, I'm getting excited, yeah. 12-pound main line through to a 8-pound hook link, and it's all floating line. I also use a bit of mucilin as well, just to put up and down the line. Right. Just a little like a wax space, grease to hold
keep
that
it
line.
up out of that water a little bit.
That's right, yeah. If you get them fish feeding and get them confident, people do get too excited and just put the rig straight out and then they're just gone.
Have you actually put any mixers out at all?
I haven't put anything out yet. The footage you're going to see is from scratch, from surface fishing, how I would do it. Is I've soaked these mixers in some of the sweet coconut flavour.
Lovely. You can see there's a shoal of fish just sat out on the surface out there. Craigie boy is going to try and get on the go.
He's just took one in.
The pack's sort of broken out. Whilst the fish are taking them, don't be chucking a line out there straight away. You've got to get them confident on it. It's quite hard to know when it's right, but you sort of get that feeling. You just know, you know. 9 times out of 10, you don't really have to wait that long. It's normally instant, and then you look one and hopefully get it in the net.
Just get it down because they're just in front of me here.
they're just troughing them down, you can see, you know, they're quite confident now. So now is obviously the right time to get it in there. He's got 2 or 3 little packs now, really competing for the food. When fishing in sort of areas like this, guys, it's really, you've got to be really stealthy with your approach. Right, they're turning towards the bait now. Here we go, here we go. Oh, unlucky, mate. That's what it's like. Your nerves get the better of you sometimes, but it's not been completely ruined as the fish have pushed up. He's in.
We're in.
Nicely done, mate. Just gone into the right hand side of these pads. He's got it out now though, which is good. I'll just grab the neck. And then I'll get a better netting. Here we go, it's a lovely little common, mate. Nice. There we go. Keeping it away from them pads, guys, keeping the pressure on it. Trying to get that fish's head up. That's it, mate. Lovely. Get him up. Get him up. Get in the net. He's in there. Nicely done. And that's how you surface fish. Well done, Craig.
Cheers,
top
guys.
man, top bombing, mate. I always have a little bit of water with you just to douse the fish off.
It's not big, but a lovely little common off the surface.
Lovely little bar.
There's still bigger ones out there.
Gorgeous. Beautiful little creatures they are.
There's one for the cameras. Nice little 12-pound common off the top. Sun was beaming, backs were out. Gave a proper little fight.
There's lots of PVA friendly hemp seed on the market.
There's a few different brands out there, but you can tell the difference. If you open up a pack that's actually all ready to go PVA friendly, there's no smell, it's gone. Because there's so many preservatives in there, they've taken all the goodness out, the smell's gone, and I'm 100% sure the fish know that. Bait Tech one, you pick it up, you can smell that hempy straight off. Chemical free, as fresh as you like, and it's ready to go. I'll get my spod mix, get it out there. Now if I want to attach a PVA bag myself, I'll do the salt trick, which is a bit of salt in water, stir it round, add the particle, and I'm away to go. But I've heard you've got a bit of a new slant on it, mate.
Well, I like to do it a little bit different. Rather than add salt to it, I like to use a crusher. I'll get some hemp. I mean, you can dry it in the sun or you can towel dry it as well, which is what a lot of people do. I don't think you need to do that. Just to make it so simple, give that a bit of a blend up. So you're breaking it down as well and you're releasing all those oils as well, you know. So it's going to give off even more flavour. Put that into a bait tub and add a bit of the oil. My favourite's chili oil. So you've got different hook baits as well there, so you can fish a tiger nut, which is obviously resistant to the nuisance fish as well.
I suppose you could do that with the party mix as well, doesn't have to just be the hemp.
You can do it with any, whichever is your particular favourite, or if you want to include a bit of all of them, you know, so you've got a few different flavours and hook bait choices. What I like to do is add a little bit of this Special G ground bait.
One of my favourites as well, that mate.
Add a liberal dose of that too. There's no set measurements on any of this stuff.
That's looking lovely.
And that can be used as a stick mix. It's PVA friendly and it's a real quick bite tactic.
I generally use a pop-up when there's a bit of weed on the bottom. If it's clear or gravel or anything like that, I'll use a bottom bait. But if there's a bit of weed, debris, anything like that, I'll have a slow sinking pop-up or have a chod rig fished over the top.
It's very beneficial to use lots of different flavours, and the reason is there's so many different options to catch different fish. You'll always find a favourite and you'll end up going back to it anyway.
Putting oil on pellets serves two purposes. Firstly, it prolongs the breakdown time of pellets, but secondly, it adds more attraction to them.
Hot days, especially in the summertime when you get a lot of the oxygen is low in the water. For me, the fish needs to be out of the water if you do catch it for as small time as possible. A big mistake I see is unhooking mats. They always get overlooked. They're left out in the piping hot sun. They'll catch a fish, bring the fish over to the mat and put the fish straight down on a piping hot mat. It's no good. What I tend to do now is make sure that mat is wet, it's watered constantly. So if you do have a fish, it's going onto a cool mat rather than a piping hot one. There's so many on the market. I don't think there's another sport in the world that's got the choice the anglers have when it comes to bait. We've got so many different sorts. I think it's down to a preference of the angler then, whether you like your tutti frutti or the fish and all that lot.
Different colours may attract fish on days. Today I've caught an orange and white, tomorrow it might be a different colour, so always try different coloured hook baits. Different size hook baits are very important. Some days when the fish aren't really feeding, a smaller hook bait might just tempt that big whacker for you.
I think first arriving on the day ticket waters, your best bet always is to speak to the guys that own it, the bailiffs that are running it, because they know everything. They're here day in, day out, and they know the lake really well. Even if they're not anglers, they know the lake. 9 times out of 10, they can tell you where the fish are, so a lot of the job's done for you. But on them sort of syndicate waters where people are a little bit clicky, don't want to tell you things, stuff like that, that's when you've got to really do your own work. Normally I'd start the swim off with around about 10, 15 spods and then see where I go from there really. Sort of let the fish tell you what's going on. If you have 2 or 3 on them, then get some more bait and top it up with 5 or 6, but don't kill it. Don't chuck loads and loads of bait in and then you've killed the swim instantly. You can always put in, but you can never take out. Just mix and match really. I use a lot of bright pop-ups in the winter, like single baits, use a lot of them down at Sandhurst. I've had some great results just using single, bright, high attractive pop-ups, but then in the summer, I've used bottom baits, freshly made bottom baits, using the stick mixes. I'd use the stick mix all year round, the one that I use for bait tech. I love it, it's real lovely bait.
I would use single baits when I'm fishing at extreme long range, when getting freebies would be quite difficult. I generally use lots of bait after having a bite or 2, and if the conditions are right, then I'll pile it in. I normally fish tigers with a bit of cork and critically balance them. I would normally fish a pop-up or a chod purely to get the right presentation and have that bait wafting over the weed. I wouldn't use a back lead over weeds purely because it might get trapped in the weed when you're playing a fish and you might lose a fish. I normally use back leads when it's a flat bottom.
I'd move pegs as soon as I see fish. If I know it's not happening for me, I'll be constantly looking at the water. If I don't see any signs of fish moving or, you know, I'm not afraid to reel in the rods, have a walk around, because it only takes 5 minutes for a bite. So if you see fish, get on them.
Well, I've hooked a fish which appears to have weeded himself up out in the middle of the lake. The bait on this one was a spod mix. It's probably been about 10 minutes now. Just keep a little steady pressure on them. And fingers crossed they'll work their way out. If you gently hold the rod, you can almost feel the fish sort of moving his head whilst he's in the weed, but you do get some fish that literally just bury themselves in the weed. They don't move whatsoever. The best way of getting them out of the weed, to be fair, is to get over the top of them. That different line angle pops them straight out of the weed. It works if you've got a lot of bank. Just move up the bank a little bit, try different angles, go left of the bank, go right of the bank, put the rod down, loosen the clutch off a little bit so the fish can run. Not too loose though, so it runs into another weed bed. Just give it time, don't rip their heads off though. It would sort of be last resort to put the rod down, which is why I sent Dean off to go to bring the boat up. I like keeping a little bit of pressure on the fish just to make sure that he can't shake that hook. The fish is probably about 100 yards out. It's difficult to say what's going on out there unless you get out there really. We'll go out that way and then across.
We've got a very strong headwind, so it's going to take a while to get 100 yards in this.
It's basically just to get over the top of the fish now, get that better angle on the line and hopefully in the net, depending on how good Ian is with the net.
Feel any movement, Lee?
Can't, mate, nah. Not that far now, mate.
I think it'll be a lot easier going back.
getting there now. Just keep a steady pressure on him, just getting over the top of him now.
Trying to hold the boat steady now, so we're right on top of the fish at the moment. It's that steady pressure, not pulling and pulling.
Oh,
no.
Oh, you're having a laugh.
Oh, man.
Oh, no way.
Sorry, mate. Wounded. It's the highs and lows of angling, I'm afraid. It's just one of them. On another day, it would have come in. Trust me, we've all been there. It's just, at this time, no words. Quick tip for you, if you're baiting up quite close to range, when I mean that, I mean sort of catapult range, 30, 40 yards or so. The coconut method mix from Bait Tech. Now I've been developing and messing around with it, having a bit of a play, and I've come up with these coconut bombs. Take some of that, put it in a bucket, add a bit of water, get the consistency right. So you're looking for that sort of Play-Doh feel. After messing around with the water, it'll all be in lumps and clumps and whatnot, but that's what we want, it's perfect. So when you grab it, it actually stays as it is. So you want to get them sort of a bit smaller than a cricket ball. Something like that. You want to take one drill bit, sort of like 8, 10 mil. Drill into the actual ball itself, about 3/4 of the way through. A decent sized hole at the top. You want to leave it out in the sun or just in the actual air itself to dry. You want to give them a couple of hours at least. Once you've done that, the actual outer side has gone a bit hard and also the actual hole itself. So the tunnel inside, the inner core's gone hard, and there's a reason for that. There's a few we made earlier. They've gone pretty hard now, which is bang on, so we know the wall inside is hard. And this is the smart bit. Using the coconut liquid, which marries up with it bang on, take a syringe, which you can get in any sort of tackle shop if you go to the bait making area. Put that in there. Draw out. Take your coconut bomb and fill her up. And because the actual hole inside, or the tunnel, has gone hard, it's keeping that liquid in that tunnel solid. It's a great way of getting pure liquid to the bottom of the lake on your actual baited area. Once you've done that, just take some of the wet mix which you've got, just to bung the hole up. And that's it, job done. Perfect for catapulting 40 yards or so. The balls break down, the liquid will start to leak out into the water columns, releasing those attractors and those feeding stimulators, which in turn will make the fish home in on your area, but the most important bit, your hook bait. You can mess around with it if you like. You think about the halibut mix and all the other ground baits that are available in the Bait Tech range. The choice is yours, it really is. It's left to your imagination.
Throughout the product range, there's everything to suit every style of fishing.
It's endless, the flavours that they've got.
They're so easy to use.
Everything's fresh, everything's well produced.
I've used their products for years now, and they're consistent and the quality is very, very high.
Now that I've seen all the products and everything that Bait Tech's got, sort of blown me away really.
It's opened up a whole new avenue to my fishing. It's helped me catch more fish, so in turn I want to help other anglers do that by showing them what I've learned.
Being part of the Bait Tech team is absolutely great. Not only do you get to wear a nice hoodie, it's the whole team. Everyone's so passionate about the fishing, the support, the bait.
They're some of the best anglers in the UK, without a doubt.
When we all met, it was going forward, I knew it would be the right move.
They're going in a direction and they know where they want to end up, so it's good to be a part of that.
As anglers, it's what we all want.
Really inspirational company.
Now that they've dominated the match side of things, like what we do as carp anglers, we start off match fishing, get the watercraft, and then move on to the carp fishing. It's almost, that's what Bait Tech's done, and the quality is there from the match side of things. And now they've pushed that into the carp anglers side. It's changed my fishing for me.
Always coming out with some new products.
New ideas, things in the pipeline that are coming through, I know are just going to take the industry by storm. Really exciting times to get my hands on the product itself, get using it and get catching. Well, that's it from Carp Catchers. Hope you enjoyed what we've shown you. I'm sure some of the guys' hints and tips will definitely help you bag more carp. If you have any other questions for our team, please check out the website or follow us on Facebook or Twitter. I'm going to get this rod buzzed back on the spot, and I'll see you on the bank sometime. Thanks for watching.
We'll show you how to bake them.
This is what we get it. Start again. Yeah.
I've left Dean on Jake.
Sorry, I've gone totally blank.
This is in the spud mix. This is mine. This is what I do first. so that's it from the Bait Take Carp Catch. There. Bait Take Carp Catchers. Well, that's it from Bait Take Carp. Every time. Okay, so that's it from Bait Take. Fucking hell, can't get that. Bait Tech. I'm about to just get flipping out. If you need any other answers, any other questions.
To add a little shot, which I can't find.
Welcome to Carp Catchers. He's gone.
Boilie size funnel web. So it's